Ortiz Irina Glushka for us there. Now, to discuss the catastrophe and the effects it may have on tensions around Ukraine, we now cross live to Charlie McGrath, founder of Wide Awake News. Thank you for being with us on what is a horrific, tragic incident. Now, the UN has called for a full and transparent international investigation of this catastrophe. Do you think that it will be possible in these conditions, specifically in a war zone, which eastern Ukraine is in right now? It is in full conflict. Will the truce agreed between the sides be helpful, or is this just going to be a quagmire going forward?
It's a great question. You know, and you're right. This is a tragedy beyond belief, and you know, I don't think so. I mean, honestly, one of these parties did this, right? And they have a vested interest in that truth not coming out. So, you know, even though they're talking about a truce so they can clear a path to the wreckage and an investigation can ensue, I think it behooves probably the separatists, in my opinion, it behooves them to let this investigation happen. But at least as far as the West's concerned, especially Western media, I think their opinion is already made up on who is responsible for this tragedy.
Now, what should be done to make sure that the investigation is objective and not politically biased? We've actually heard from the Malaysian foreign minister, who has basically called out, saying that only international experts should handle the flight recorders, the black boxes. We've also heard that separatists possibly have handled the black boxes already. How do you think this is going to play forward as we move on?
You know, again, another good question, and you have to wonder. I mean, I think the best course of action to get to the bottom of it and get to the truth and hold responsible the individuals that push that button that down this airliner is to take that information, take the black boxes out of the hands of all three parties involved. Take it away from Ukraine, take it away from the separatists, take it away from Russia, and let an outside international body look at this event. Maybe Malaysia itself, being as it was one of their airliners.
Now, if the investigation finds out that a missile was indeed fired at the plane, what actions should be taken against those responsible? It seems like it would be a serious violation of international law.
Well, I think they should be tried as terrorist criminals, you know, regardless of who it is. You know, you have nearly 300 people dead. Somebody has to answer for this. Now, you know, the broader question of why is this hostility occurring right now in eastern Ukraine certainly is an important one. But the fact of the matter is, war zone or not, regardless of who's to blame for this war zone or not, nearly 300 innocent people have been killed, and the people that are responsible need to be brought to justice.
Now, how is this catastrophe likely to affect the Ukrainian conflict and the international tensions around it? We've heard from Barack Obama, we've heard from Putin, we've heard from Poroshenko. Poroshenko was very quick indeed to blame this on the opposition fighters.
Of course he was.
There's lots at play here. How is this going to, is it going to broaden the scale of the conflict, or more people going to get involved?
Yeah, absolutely. I don't, you know, I mean, as soon as I saw the headline of this occurring, you know, the first thing I thought of was, you know, the people in America are now going to understand, and they're going to have Ukraine in the forethought of their thinking, because, you know, even though months and months of violence and hundreds of civilians have been killed, Ukraine has been put on the back burner, and it has been non-existent in the press in the West. Now it is going to be thrust into their face. This situation inside of Ukraine has been a powder keg for a long, long time. Now, depending how this is spun and who is blamed and how well that truth is sold, you know, this situation could go from ugly to a whole lot uglier very, very quickly. I've sat here and I've tried to mull over many different scenarios, depending if the Ukrainian government, Kiev, is blamed for this or is found to be guilty of this, if the separatists are found to be guilty of this, or if Russia is found to be guilty of this act. And none of these play out well. It all plays out to escalating the tension and escalating the violence in eastern Ukraine, Russia, and in Kiev, for that matter.
Charlie Yunin here. Let me just jump in, because I wanted to ask, some Western media are already coming out with headlines pinning the blame on pro-Russian activists.
Yep.
And of course, that is before any official investigation. The tragedy is only a number of hours old, lest we forget. Why are they so quick to jump to conclusions before the investigation is done thoroughly?
You know, in light of the fact that nearly 300 people just died, I hate to jump into bashing, but since you asked the question, I will. This is a Western-backed regime inside of Kiev. Poroshenko is absolutely put there by the United States, by the EU, by the International Monetary Fund. They, like I said, the Ukraine is not in the forefront of the people's mind in the West. It's going to be now, and you're 100% right. When I was monitoring coverage on this earlier today, they give you two options for what has happened inside of Ukraine. It's either Russia's fault or pro-Russian separatists' fault. They're forgetting the fact that Ukraine right now, the Ukrainian government is shelling civilians, is shelling in urban areas, and hundreds of civilians have already been killed at the hands of the Ukrainian government. So, the fact that the media is not reporting the truth on the ground is not surprising at all, because this is the Western media who is towing the Western propaganda line.
Now, Charlie, Sean again here. Yunin and I were quite surprised when we found out that commercial airlines were flying over conflict zones. It seems like something that in international law, or there would be some protocol in place that would prevent this from happening. Do you think that this incident, if it turns out that this was a rocket attack on a civilian aircraft, is it going to will there be an international calling for a change in protocol, or people wanting to know what happened?
In true free market spirit here, these airlines should have some common sense, especially going forward. Now, I will say this, and this leads me to believe that it wasn't a Russian separatist engagement here. If you're the airlines and you're looking at what's happened in that region already, and you've had down military aircraft that the Russian separatists are claiming credit for, these are all shoulder-fired weaponry with a very limited ceiling as far as how far these rockets will get up and knock these aircraft down. Certainly not the 30,000 feet or 10,000 meters that this aircraft is flying. So again, maybe these airlines are looking at it thinking that all the activity that's happened with these aircraft has been at fairly low altitude, and there's nothing to worry about at 33,000 plus feet. But going forward, certainly these airlines, the international community has to get out of this conflict zone, or risk another disaster like this.
Now, you mentioned common sense of the airlines involved. We should point out that Lufthansa and KLM, amongst other airlines, have cleared out of Ukraine entirely, at least for now. But let's kind of take a look in the future. How is this going to play out politically, militarily? What do you see happening in the eastern Ukraine crisis right now after this incident?
Yeah, that's a great question. And trust me, it's something I've been stewing on all day long. How does it play out? Looking back at the very recent history, looking back at something that RT helped break, which is the alleged RAND Corporation leak memorandum on how to deal with eastern Ukraine, where they encircle them and basically annihilate them. If this was some kind of an event that was perpetrated by Kiev, then certainly this is going to, and they were able to pin this on Russia or on the pro-Russian separatists. This is certainly going to increase momentum for a very harsh, very bloody, very violent crackdown on this rebellion inside of eastern Ukraine. I truly think this is what we see going forward. We're not going to see these guys come to the table and negotiate some kind of peace deal because of this down airline. I think we're going to see a full court press on Russia and the pro-Russian separatists militarily, and we're going to see the violence increase inside eastern Ukraine, unfortunately.
And I know this is a little bit of speculation, and we've touched on this a little bit. Do you think we're going to see more international involvement or awareness or sympathy on some level toward what's happening in Ukraine?
Yeah, on all of that, I think we're going to see an increase in at least technology, at least intelligence. Hopefully not boots on the ground by the West in what's happening in eastern Ukraine. I think we're going to see an increase in awareness. But the question is it going to be reality that's presented to the people of Europe and the West, or is it going to be some kind of ginned up reality to foment hostility in order to go in and eviscerate the people of eastern Ukraine?
All right. Appreciate your thoughts on the subject. Charlie
Thank you.
McGrath, founder of Wide Awake News here on RT International.